Welcome to Well Coached, a podcast about how people, sales, profit, and self can transform your business. I'm your host, Chris Weinberg, and I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get into their highest productivity zone and become corporate enough to succeed. Let's get into today's episode. Hey team, welcome back to the Well Coached podcast, where we focus on helping you to make your business corporate enough to scale and thrive while maintaining enough flexibility and creativity to keep you in love with the original idea that made you jump off the pier and go be an entrepreneur. We do that by focusing intently in 4 different lanes: people, sales, profit, and self, always trying to get those as close to balance or harmony as humanly possible. Today, we're going to hang out in the people section. Specifically, we're going to talk about developing a feedback culture. More specifically, how to use EQ to give and receive constructive criticism or feedback. Feedback is a superpower, and as my idol, Ken Blanchard, says, feedback is the breakfast of champions. It drives growth, it drives innovation, and it drives accountability. However, most of us suck at giving it. Many companies struggle with giving feedback. It's either too vague, might be too harsh, or worst case scenario, completely avoided. Now, we talk a lot about DISC profiling here, and there are natural tendencies in feedback giving based on DISC, right? Too vague, high I's, high S's. We may be too vague. We're not in the business of hurting people's feelings. Too harsh, high D's may have no patting on the steel pole when they clunk you over the head and tell you that they're going to give you some feedback. Or completely avoided, right? I could completely avoid feedback. S's could completely avoid feedback. Right? So that I and S, you know who you are out there. We don't really want to give feedback unless we're giving a compliment. We love to give that kind of feedback. D's and C's may be too harsh, right? Just be aware of those kind of things. What we'll cover today is how to use EQ effectively to give and receive proper feedback. First step of that, creating a culture of feedback. Creating psychological safety. Your team members have got to feel safe to share their ideas and concerns. And when they don't, all of a sudden they can be winners disguised as losers because they've decided to shut their mouth because the boss is going to say what the boss is going to say no matter what, make all the decisions. Feedback will be a one-sided street, and pretty soon you'll have a bunch of turkeys working in your organization because eagles don't hang around in turkey environments, right? You have to allow space for feedback to be a two-way street. The second one, and if you don't get anything else out of this today, if you own a business, regular check-ins, make the feedback a habit, not a one-time event. How many of us work in a company or have worked in a company where there's a yearly review process, and that's the only time you really get feedback? And everybody hates these things, right? You prepare for them, usually last minute. If you're the boss, because you're doing bunches at the same time, you don't really know what to put in there, because if you're reviewing the last year, or best case scenario, last 6 months, who knows what happened a year ago, right? You're trying to remember the journey of the competence level and of the contributions of each other in a feedback that may be a year old. They're awful. We follow the Ken Blanchard model of feedback is constant. It's consistent. If you want to dig in on this a little bit more, go get a book called The 1 Minute Manager from Ken Blanchard. It talks about feedback in the moment all the time. You catch people doing things right, you pat them on the back. You catch people doing things incorrectly, you redirect in the moment. We don't wait for these big moments. And to be honest with you, the best-in-class companies I see out there and what I try to implement, we get rid of the yearly review. When we need to have a review, we do it in the moment. Therefore, it doesn't take 10 hours to prepare for it. We're dealing with specific behaviors and specific journeys on a goal path. And when we're able to do that rapid fire consistently, it increases the quality of the conversation and it increases the quality of the outcome. And when folks get used to having feedback nonstop, it becomes not scary at all. Right? So increase the frequency of the way you're giving feedback. That alone will change the game inside your organization. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. As an entrepreneur, you're constantly balancing growth, team dynamics, and staying competitive. But in the middle of all that hustle, who's looking out for you? The stress of running a business is real, and burnout doesn't wait. That's where BetterHelp comes in. They'll match you with a licensed therapist who gets it, someone who can help you navigate the pressure and stay grounded. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so here's your reminder that therapy isn't just for when things are going wrong. It's a smart investment in your mindset, helping you set boundaries, staying focused, and leading with clarity. And with BetterHelp, it's all online, on your time. It's also more affordable. Users save up to 50% on average compared to traditional therapy. With over 30,000 therapists and 5 million people being helped, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform. Because a stronger business starts with a stronger you. We're all better with help. Visit BetterHelp.com/wellcoached to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/wellcoached. Let's talk about giving constructive feedback with emotional intelligence. The feedback has got to be specific, it's got to be actionable, and it's got to be timely. Now, this can work for if it's criticism or constructive redirects, or if it's praisings. Let's start with a praising. Imagine this. Let's say that I'm the boss and you're on my team, and I come by your desk and I say, "Sally, good job today." All right, now, if I'm giving that out to Sally and to Ben and to Timmy and to Sarah, that becomes a little hollow at some point. But imagine if I said to her, "You did exceptional today." And what I mean by that specifically is we had that report that was due at 12. You had it on my desk at 10. We had a client meeting at 1. You stood up and handled your part brilliantly. And I think you increased our odds of signing the client. Specific feedback, right? Another reason why you catch people doing things right in the moment. You're specific with the feedback, good or bad. Are there actionable items, and is it timely? Feedback has always got to be specific, and it's got to be timely. There's a model for this called the SBI model. It's called Situation, Behavior, and Impact. You can Google that, SBI model. The situation, right? In today's meeting, behavior address would be like, "You interrupted several times." The impact of that might be, "It made it hard for others to contribute," right? We're addressing the situation. We're addressing the behavior, not the person, and the impact that behavior had on the organization. How many times have you worked for a boss, or maybe you've been a boss, where you said, "That person is just an idiot," right? Or, "Man, Sally sucks." Sally doesn't suck. She may have had a rough day on a particular situation, on a certain behavior. That doesn't mean the rest of her world is crumbling. And that's why you want to take it down to fast feedback in the moment on a specific goal, specific task, and the specific behavior that either needs a high five, pat on the back, or a redirect. If you want to dig into a company that handles this really well over the years, go check out Netflix. They maintain radical transparency and still prioritize emotional intelligence in how they interact with their company. You can Google all kinds of white pages and articles about how that has happened over time. The next step in this process is receiving feedback gracefully, right? Listen without being defensiveness. Woo, hang on, all you D's and I's and C's to some extent, and even S's at some time. Man, nobody wants to get harsh feedback, right? So you want to turn on those ears, and instead of just saying, "Why is he being mean to me?" you try to listen for the message, right? Separating your ego out of the deal. Like, feedback is not a personal attack if it's given appropriately. It's a tool for growth. Try to have the mindset, if you're a leader or the person receiving feedback, that the real reason for feedback is because I care about you enough to let you know how it's going, right? Silence is deadly in an employer-team member relationship. It's deadly, right? You'd much rather be doing little autocorrects along the way than waiting for some big moment in time where it's too late. On the other side of that, we want to catch people doing things right. Ken Blanchard, who you guys know is my guy, he teaches 7 praisings to 1 reprimand, right? 7 praisings to 1 reprimand. You know how difficult that is? And here's the reason why. When you are catching people doing things right, and you're constantly letting them know that, specifically letting them know that, when it does come time for a redirect, The trust level is already built. They know you see them. They know you care about them. So the feedback can't just be constructive criticism all the time. When that happens, your team members are just avoiding watching you come down the hall, right? Because they know they're about to get whacked for something. But if you're also catching people doing things right, the trust level goes through the roof. They know it's not personal. They know you care about them. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Wrapping that up, leaders who embrace feedback create stronger and more adaptive organizations. I heavily encourage you to make feedback short, sweet, and often. The key is often, and it does not need to be 2-hour-long meetings, right? When you start doing that in your organization, you may still want to have your crutch for your yearly review. I'm sure plenty of people will argue that with me. But if you're catching people doing things immediate in the moment, those things can shorten or be even more strategic versus tactical, right? If you can get to where your yearly review becomes a strategic go forward plan versus a backwards here's how you did plan, the organization and the team member will both scale. Hope you enjoyed the podcast today. If you liked it, share it, tell all your friends, and we will see you next time. Well, guys, that's a wrap for today. We thank you a ton for listening and looking forward to the next episode where we'll continue this journey on how becoming corporate enough can put you in your highest productivity zone to create a successful, profitable, and purpose-driven business for you.